Hi guys, how's everybody doing? So happy Saturday. Today is June 17th and I'm hopping on to talk about the new moon in Gemini. I've been off for a week. I mean, not off work, but offline because I've lost my voice for 3 days. So I had to kind of nurture it back to health. And yeah, it's not fully back, but it's good enough to talk. So yeah, so here I am with another video for you guys. And yeah, today, the June 17th, is actually Dave and Saturn stations retrograde in a sign of Pisces. And as we know, recap a little bit, actually last weekend on June 11th, Pluto retrograded back into the sign of Capricorn, where it has been since 2008. And now it's going back for a little bit more work in Capricorn. But this time, Saturn, the ruler, is ruling Pluto from the sign of Pisces, which is very important because, as many people might have heard, the biggest aspects that made to this new moon is actually square by Neptune. And at the moment, Saturn also is being ruled by Neptune. So it's kind of a little bit of a red thread coming up here. But let's go back to June 11th because I couldn't record any video. So I would like to go back to it. So yeah, that was the day when Pluto moved back into the sign of Capricorn, where it will remain until January next year. And actually on the same day, Mercury moved into his rulership, Gemini, where he is at the moment. And Mercury is actually the ruler of this new moon I want to talk about. This new moon is going to take place from 26 degrees and 43 minutes. So it's going to happen on 26 degrees and 43 minutes in the sign of Gemini. For some of us, this will take place tonight, depending where you are in the world. But for majority of us, myself included, because I'm in Europe at the moment, this will take place tomorrow morning on June 18th. And as I mentioned, Mercury, the ruler, moved into the sign of Gemini recently, and actually just before it did so, it made a trine to Pluto. So Pluto was on 30 degrees of Capricorn and Mercury was on 30 degrees of Taurus. So it was just about to shift into the sign of Gemini, but it made the trine to Pluto. And if you remember, the first aspect Mercury made when it moved into Taurus, it was square to Pluto. So this is telling us that whatever Mercury has learned during its stage in Taurus, also during its retrograde, it's supporting us on our evolutionary path in this process of evolution. And also every single sign that entered the sign of Gemini made a trine to Pluto. So again, this Gemini is popping up as an important theme, as an important archetype to support us on our evolutionary path. And actually the first aspect that Mercury made from the sign of Gemini was a square to Saturn, which took place only a few days ago, a couple of days ago from today. That was June 15th. And why is this important? Because Saturn is currently the ruler of Pluto, and Mercury is the ruler of this new moon. So we get in more of the red thread here coming on, and I will put it all into context in a moment. I just want to name the transits first, and then let's have a chat about it, what this all means to us. And yeah, today actually the day when Saturn is stationing to go retrograde, Mercury is actually making a sextile to Venus. So Mercury is now in Gemini, Venus is in a sign of Leo, ruled by the Sun, and Sun is, of course, playing the role in this new moon. And yeah, Mercury today, which is the day, the 17th, the day before, for most of us, this new moon takes place, there is a sextile between the ruler, Mercury, and Venus in Leo, and actually, this sextile is still valid tomorrow, so it doesn't matter where we are in the world. This sextile is still valid during the time of this new moon, which is a very supportive aspect. I mean, sextile is an aspect which needs us to take an action. It doesn't just happen on its own. Like, it's not as easy to feel as trine. Trine is like something that we feel more strongly, but still, this is a very supportive aspect, which again is encouraging us to see this Gemini archetype as something that is supporting us on this journey, on our fool's journey towards self-empowerment. And now Venus is in the sign of Leo, so of course she's seeking her purpose through manifestation and self-actualization of her needs and values. And now Gemini in a sign of Gemini, Mercury in a sign of Gemini, it's fully focused on identifying all these different options, all these different routes, different way of thinking. It's encouraging us, just as Sun has been since it's been in a sign of Gemini, to be more open-minded, curious, ask questions, and not to rigidly hold on to the things that perhaps we thought were set in a stone in the past. Because as we know, Saturn is in a sign of Pisces. Saturn represents our structure, and it's a definition, like it's in opposition of Cancer, so it's part of feeling safe and secure. This structure is making us feel unsafe and secure, but as we know, the current structure is outdated because Saturn has gone through the sign of Aquarius and realized that, oh my gosh, this is outdated. We need to kind of reset all this and have a new program installed. And now Saturn is going retrograde in a sign of Pisces, so it's like double going backwards. Well, I mean, in the sign of Pisces, it's all about closing cycles, but now Saturn started retrograde in a sign of Pisces, and this is influencing Pluto, who is retrograde in a sign of Capricorn. So this is telling us about things that we need to revisit, that we need to perhaps have another look at. For majority of us, myself included, and a lot of clients that are coming to me that I have been doing readings for, people are feeling that there was kind of like a new energy streaming through, and now they have to revisit, they have to kind of go back to how things has been for a while, and like kind of correct the past, kind of make changes that will enable for this new energy to stream forward and to allow for this new beginning to come in. And Saturn at the moment is ruled by Neptune, and as we know, going back to that, Neptune is actually playing a huge role in this new moon in Gemini because it's squaring this new moon in Gemini. And actually what this means for us, that there is a lot of confusion. A lot of people are feeling confused about what is this new direction and what is it that I need to still do with regards to the past and my past pattern, my life up till this moment, like what exactly needs doing and changing in order for us to move forward. And there are usually more than two options when it comes to Gemini, so like even I am experiencing this dilemma where I'm like trying to make a choice between two possible scenarios that are presented to me. And this is very normal for Gemini season, where we see so many different options, and it might get us to the point of confusion, like, okay, so which one is it? Which one is the choice that we should take? Like, like standing at the fork in the road and like, okay, left or right, which way do I go? Which one is the right way? But all journeys, whichever you choose, will take you somewhere. There is always an experience to be learned and lesson to be learned. So as I said, actually this sextile between Mercury, the ruler, and Venus is still active. What this is trying to tell us, that you just have to kind of trust yourself and your inner guidance, and knowing yourself, knowing what is important to you, knowing your values, and this will guide you. This will support you in this process to making the right choice. The core goal, not even goal, but the baseline of everything is knowing yourself, knowing your needs, knowing your values. We had Mercury going through the sign of Taurus for like 2.5 months, having a retrograded. So there was the amazing opportunity for reconnection with ourselves, our needs and values, and a kind of having a deeper understanding of oneself. And the ruler, Venus, has gone herself through the sign of Taurus, then she's gone through the sign of Gemini when she was exploring, then she went through the sign of Cancer when she was exploring herself emotionally and finding out what she needs emotionally, not just materially. And now Venus is in a sign of Leo. So now she wants to create it. She wants to self-actualize. She wants to like, okay, I know who I am. I know what I need. I know what matters to me. And now how am I going to make it happen? And this Mercury now moving into the sign of Gemini, it's supporting Venus and going, there are a lot of options. You have to be open-minded. Remember, when you went through my house, you remember how it was. There are all these options to do, how you can achieve this goal, the direction you are heading. And actually, at the same time, we are experiencing Pluto in a sextile with Neptune. So we know that Neptune is kind of causing a little bit of havoc and a little bit of a chaos here in this new moon, because it's like, okay, there is this new direction. I'm meant to think in some new way, but what the hell is it? Like it's easy to say, okay, make all these new choices, go in a new direction, but we still have one foot in the past, like there is Pluto back in a Capricorn. So it's like, well, it's not so easy to just kind of break free out of everything. This structure has been in a place for a long time. So suddenly somebody tells us like, hey, just pack up your bags and go and start a new life. Like, hello, it's not so easily done. And this Neptune is saying like, yeah, it's confusing, because in a sense you might feel there are all these options, but which one is the right one? Like, which way do I go? And this Venus is saying like, well, hey, you have to trust yourself. You have to look within. And she's in Leo, so it's like this sign of fire. So you're supposed to go and create something. But in a sense, she's saying like, well, you need to know yourself. You need to know what is important to you. And what is this sense of purpose, like what is your instinctual desire to do anything, because Venus is like in a conjunction with Mars, even though there is not an exact conjunction, but they are within degree conjunction, they're close enough, so we still count it, we still take it. And actually this Mars, let's just mention Mars, why not? Because he instinctually helps us to manifest our Pluto's desire, because Pluto is unconscious and Mars is conscious. So this, what we feel within, this fire, this, what we can't explain, like I don't know why I feel that this is the right thing for me. I don't know why I feel the desire to do this, but I just feel that this is what I need to do. So that's Mars, right? And Mars actually will be squaring Uranus, and this is actually already within a degree, so this is already becoming active. It's not exact, it will be exact on June 26th, but it's already felt, this square between Mars in Leo and Uranus in Taurus. And this is again telling us, it's the first quarter square, so this is something that requires action, and it's telling us like, well, my values are all being kind of turned upside down, like for majority of people. Well, I can't talk for everyone, but a lot of people are reevaluating their life. A lot of people are kind of, by getting to know themselves better, which will become even more prominent once the nodes shift next month into the Aries and Libra axis, with the North Node being in Aries. So it will be ruled by Mars. So what is this telling us? This energy is that, as we changing, as our values are changing, like things are not so stable anymore. Things are kind of like, okay, well, I thought this was steady, Taurus, but it's not. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. So a lot of us have felt a major shifts when it comes to our material, belongings, and also what we value and what no longer matters to us. And and Leo, as I said, is it will be still in a sign of Mars will still be in a sign of Leo when this square will take place. So this is again, this Mars just wants to go already. It wants to go in this new direction and start something different that is like in alignment with with ourselves, and where we can self-actualize, when we can show up in our real authentic light. But it's not so easy. Like things, there are so many squares going on. There have been, and there still will continue to be so. And this, this grand fixed square, which I have been talking about for weeks now, it is still active. I mean, we know that Pluto will be squaring nodes for the rest of the year, even though he now moved into the Capricorn, but the nodes also are going to shift into cardinal signs of Aries and Libra next month. And North Node is still within the degree of conjunction with Jupiter. And on the other side, we have, in opposition with Pluto, we still have Venus conjuncting Mars, like, so they one bunch still in the opposition to Pluto. So this square is still active, even though that is not like exact degrees and things are moving apart now, but it is still active. And therefore we feel more and more this tension, like, oh, something needs to happen, I need to do something. We know solstice is coming up next week, and that will represent the beginning of a new seasons for us. So again, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to do something, but oh my gosh, especially like, with the Cancer season, again, it's more about the yin energy, more emotional, and one after the other, the planets are going retrograde. So today we have Saturn stationed in retrograde. In a couple of weeks, not even, we're gonna have Neptune before the end of the month, and literally every month another planet will go retrograde. So by September it will be like this retrograde, yeah. So it's kind of like this opportunity, and I mean, it all starts with Pluto, right? Pluto went retrograde first. So it was like Pluto is kind of calling the shots and saying like, hey, we need to revisit the past, we need to look back, and there are still certain things that are holding us back. This square to the nodes, resolution is the South Node, ruled by Pluto in Scorpio, because the South Node is still in Scorpio. And that's saying that, well, there is still something that needs to be resolved, still something that is holding us back. Is it the fear? Is it the insecurity? Like, what is it that is taking our power away? That feel that we're not fully in charge, we're not fully like taking responsibility, like, because also Saturn is about like maturity and emotional responsibility and stuff, and Saturn currently is retrograde. It's also about boundaries. Do we have a clear boundaries? Like, do we know where they are? Because Saturn being in Pisces, the boundaries are a little bit foggy, like, are they actually there or not, or what's happening? And this is another, aspect of this emotional security and feeling confident. Who am I? What do I want? What do I need? Where are my boundaries? Are these boundaries in place? Do I feel safe or not? And this is all these Saturn things. And I know it might sound that I'm just jumping from thing to the things, but guys, this is creating one thing. This is one theme. And as always, I say that all the planets, they communicate. They all supporting each other, and they creating this bigger picture. And it's literally like, if you want to create a theme, imagine universe wants to create a theme for us. Like, okay, let me create a theme. There is a main theme, and now let me put all these actors in the correct place, so these guys watching understand what the theme is about, because every actor is supporting different aspect of this theme. So that's pretty much what's going on in the sky right now. Like, Pluto goes retrograde, in Capricorn. So it's saying, well, something needs to be revisited. We all want to be free. We all want to be sovereign. But, that doesn't come just for free. Like, we need to kind of change certain things in our lives. Because going from Capricorn, and the age of Pisces and all that we've been experiencing in past 2000 years, it's like suddenly, okay, you're going through being someone who somebody else is telling what to do, and somebody who feels potentially like a victim of circumstances or disempowered, Pisces age, like, oh, well, we all sharing this common thing and nobody is like individuated. And now suddenly we're shifting into the age of Aquarius, and Pluto going into the sign of Aquarius for upcoming 20 years. But at the same time, this is a huge shift. It doesn't just happen overnight. Like, okay, we've gone through all these decades through somebody else telling us what to do, listening to someone else and trusting them and thinking that, oh, these people have the best interest, our best interest in mind. And now, bam, Saturn goes into the sign of Aquarius. Well, this is going back 3 years. We all know what's been going on for past 3 years and stuff, since 2018, 19, all that. And then suddenly Saturn was 3 years in Aquarius, and we just like started seeing like, the structure is kind of not what we want anymore. Like, there are things that are outdated and just don't support us anymore, because we feel like, hey, I want to be my own boss. I want to be the authority in my life. And in order for that to take place, there is a lot of adjustment that needs to happen. It's not just like going from, okay, I work for you and now I work for myself from one day to another. Like, there are a lot of things that needs to happen in a meanwhile, and that's what's happening in the sky right now. Literally, this is the process we are experiencing collectively right now, that there is this theme, which is, yes, we enter in the age of Aquarius. Pluto is going to shift into the sign of Aquarius for 20 years, which will completely change the world as we know it now and everybody's life, because we are part of the world, part of the society. But at the same time, it's going to accelerate everything. However, to get there, are we ready? Are we ready for that? And then Pluto say, well, maybe not just yet. Let me go back to Capricorn. I'll help these guys to catch up, because there is still some catching up that they need to do, myself included. It's not like I'm excused from this process. And then the ruler, Saturn, ruler of Pluto, retrograde, goes retrograde also right after, literally not even a week after Pluto, Saturn goes into retrograde in Pisces. So it's saying, okay, well, we need to dissolve more things. What that is? Well, we need to figure it out, like Saturn, let me define it. Let me redefine what it is that I need to, do here, because, Pluto is working on this big thing, and currently I'm the ruler, so I need to do my bit, which is I am going to go retrograde and I'm going to revisit, which no longer has a meaning for me, because practically that's what it is about. Majority of people, what do we want? You ask person, what do you want? Want to be happy? Want to feel like I'm living a life of purpose, that my life has a purpose and a meaning. That's majority of people, what they want. And it looks different for everybody else, because it's influenced by our values. What do we need? And also, what is our perception of reality? What it is for anybody else, right? But now Saturn going through the retrograde in Pisces, it's saying, okay, well, you want to find this meaning in your life, but what is holding you back from pursuing it? Also with this planets, personal planets, Venus and Mars, which are like, the ones that we, like kind of identify the most. Mercury, Venus, Mars, these are like the main ones that, like everybody's kind of very familiar with them on everyday basis. And they are in Leo and, ruled by Sun, and the Sun is still in Gemini. So it seems like everything is taking us back to Gemini. So what is this Gemini about? What is this Gemini that is popping up all the time with this new moon in Gemini, which is telling us about this new thing starting, right? And also let us just think about it. Gemini new moon starting on a 26 degrees. Okay, isn't this the Aquarian decan by any chance? Because we know that each sign is like 30 degrees, right? So the first 10 degrees is this, this sign in its like, true nature. So first 10 degrees in Gemini is Gemini, Gemini. Then what follows? Well, Libra follows. So people born in the like second third of the Gemini season, they are like influenced by Libra, they're probably more social, they like the relationship. And then you go into the last third, which is where we are at now, just before we shift into Cancer season. And this is the Aquarius, because is the air sign. So this is no coincidence, guys. We have a new moon in Gemini in an Aquarian decan, which is all about this liberation. And we know that every single planet that moved into Gemini made a trine to Pluto, which means that Gemini is the thing we need to look at. And what is Gemini? Gemini is be curious, be open-minded, be flexible, be adaptable. Or like my good friend said, you have to be a little bit nimble or something. We have to be flexible. We have to get through the, small gaps if necessary. Or like the willow tree, you need to bend, but you have to have strong roots. Taurus, we need to know who we are and what we know, and then we can bend, which way we're gonna get there. And this is pretty much what is, this Gemini offering us as a quality, like with the Sun going through Gemini. I mean, it's at the end of it now. It's only have 4 more days left. But what did we experience? How did it feel for us this last month? Like, I know for myself personally, there's been a lot of thinking, there's been a lot of thinking and reconsidering, like, oh my gosh, like, what is it I really want? Which choice am I going to take? Because there are all these different avenues, different route is going to take you to different place. But, they all might give you a lesson that will support you on, this path to where you need to go. And also in other things, I want to bring into, first I mentioned this. So at the same time, what is happening with this new moon, apart from being conjunct by Juno, but I don't work with asteroids, but I can just mention it. New moon is conjunct by Juno. So, so this is usually Juno is usually the husband, right? In a chart is the relationships. But let's just go back to Pluto. So Pluto is actually having an inconjunct, which is what we call the blind spot, right? This is the blind spot in evolutionary astrology, inconjunct. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that we don't know. Because this Pluto just goes back into Capricorn and say, well, there is more work to be done before we move into Aquarius. Like we all want to go into Aquarius, but well, we're not quite ready yet. So let's do more of this digging and dissolving and letting go and, looking for what is this thing that gives us a sense of meaning. However, at the same time, Gemini gives you a lot of options, like, well, which one do you want to go? There are so many options. Just look at internet, put in Google. You can get information overload. Whatever the hell you want, internet will give it to you. You just spits it out. Or even better now, you go to ChatGPT free, ask it anything. It will give you plenty of options. So it can get overwhelming. There is so much going on out there. So that's why just being in your head, it's kind of not really helping us that much. We also need to be in our heart, and we need to be strongly rooted to the earth. So it's like everything is together. Everything is supporting us. We need to be connected to ourselves emotionally, also we have to feel safe and secure materially. We need to be able to distinguish what is my truth, what is someone else's truth, because, we have this new phase now between Jupiter and Mercury, right? Jupiter going through the sign of Taurus is actually in a closing phase with Uranus. So this is also telling us that the truth, might be dissolved next year. It might change as our value have changed. But with regards to Mercury, because Mercury is the boss, he's the ruler of this new moon. So let's go back to Mercury. Mercury is in a new phase with Jupiter. So we are identifying what is my new truth, which, might not be relevant next year, but for now, what is my new truth? What is this new guidance that, is being presented to me to move in one of these different directions that, are available? But at the same time, we have this square from Neptune saying like, well, let me make it a little bit confusing for you, which is exactly where I am with my choices. Like, which choice do I take? Because, everything's got pros and cons, and everything feels like, well, this is a good choice, this is a good choice, but I only have, I can make one. Which one do I take right now? And and that's why we have this sextile to Venus saying, follow your purpose. What is your heart telling you? What sparks the fire in your belly? What makes you feel happy? And what gives you the sense that you can be authentic? Which one of these choices? So how are we going to resolve this square to the Neptune? Well, we have to connect with ourselves, don't we? And we need to know who we are. And, there is not many trines going on at the moment. So, that's a bit tricky. What's going on here? Like we have... Okay, let's just go back to what's happening with these aspects. So we have Mercury and Mercury in a new phase with Jupiter, as I mentioned. Then at the same time, we have also Mercury in a new phase with Uranus. So this is also supporting us in this, the more that we, stay open-minded and flexible and open to new information, but let's not get information overload. Then, the more we can set ourselves free, we freeing ourselves from things that are outdated, that no longer serve us. Also, we have Saturn in a new phase with Pluto, so this is again a positive aspect. These guys are closely connected now because, as we know, Saturn is ruler of Pluto at the moment. Then we have also a new phase between North Node and Jupiter, which is also very supportive, that there is this initiation of the new direction. It is making us insecure. We have this blind spot going on there, like, okay, there are a lot of options, but which one is the right one for me that's going to help me get out of this mess, But everything is ready for us to start this new chapter. But how we gonna do it? There are a lot of options, and what is the right one for you, only you know, because nobody else is living your life. So it's really like through this transit of Mercury through Taurus of past 2.5 months, we had the opportunity to get to know ourselves better, also on an emotional level because of Venus going through Cancer. And now when these planets, Venus and Mars is the initiator of the change, they're going through Leo. Now, by this point, hopefully we have a better understanding of who we are. But this Neptune, he might cloud things up a little bit for us. So I definitely wouldn't make which I'm listening to this advice. That's why I'm not making my choice this weekend. But this is not the best time to start a new action. Also because it's a new moon. Moon has no light. We know that new moon is the best time for seeding intentions, right? But also because this new moon has this Neptune playing such an important role, it's like the veil is very thin. So this is the better time for trying to, just go within and connect with ourselves, and just rather than try to do something, let's feel into it, let's just let it digest. And then once the moon starts getting light, gaining light, then we will probably be clearer about what is that thing that needs to be done. Okay, and then at the same time, we still have some closing phases. So, things need to be completed, right? There are things that come into the end, and that's between Saturn and Neptune. Again, Saturn, Neptune, these two guys are popping up for us. So we know that there are things that we need to dissolve. There are also aspects of ourselves that we need to find to feel whole again. So we can start this new cycle of our evolution. Feeling complete and whole, so we don't feel that there is something missing in us, where we externalizing our power. So this is, this is happening because, Saturn will be in the sign of Pisces for the next 3 years, so the conjunction won't happen anytime soon, but the closing phase is there. And then at the same time, we have closing phase between Jupiter and Uranus, which I said, we are establishing what is our belief system, what is our current truth and perception of reality, but that might again change next year when this conjunction happens, in order to help us to liberate ourselves. But we don't have the pieces at the moment, so whatever will happen next year, it's unknown. So for now, we have to focus on what's now, and Mercury is helping us to identify that because of the new phase between Jupiter and Mercury. And at the same time, we have Chiron in a closing phase with North Node, which again is telling us about this, which I have spoken about in my previous video. Chiron going through the sign of Aries is already ready to, start this new cycle. So Chiron is the collective wounding, and is telling us that there is still a lot of guilt and shame in order, with regards to people feeling that they should be able to follow their path. A lot of people still struggle with this conditioning. I mean, it's so deeply embedded in our DNA that probably majority of people are struggling with this, feeling that, if I do something for myself, I'm selfish, I'm not a good person. And that's all this Pisces age that, I need to sacrifice and all that. And I feel personally that this will be resolved when the nodes will move into Aries, into Virgo and Pisces axis, which will be, from 2025 until mid-2026. But all this that's happening right now for the upcoming 2.5 years, it's a preparation for that moment. And there is a steps that needs to be taken before we know what is this thing that we're supposed to know. So there is that closing phase. And then also Mercury is actually in a closing phase to this new moon, interestingly, Mercury being the ruler. So again, this is about reevaluating the way we think, because a lot of people actually are not aware that our thoughts create our reality. And there is so much stuff that is subconscious happening in our mind subconsciously that we are just saying or think on automatic. Like even, when we just say something, like there is a situation and I just say something that I've been saying all my life. And then, if we don't stop ourselves, it's like, is it actually what you believe? Is it your truth? This new phase with the Jupiter going on there. And in many cases, unless we are actually think about what are we saying, we are not even aware that we're casting spells, these things that whatever it is, like, I'm too old to do A, B, C, and D. And I'm like, well, who said that? Whose belief system is that? Do you believe that? I can just tell you experience from my life. I love going on a swings, I'm almost 40 years old. Who cares? I like going on swings. And my mom is like, aren't you too old for that? And I'm like, hell no. Who said that anybody is ever too old to go on swings? If my bum fits in there, then there is no problem. So this is one of the examples, these things that people tell us. And actually, is my truth, just because I've heard it all my life and everybody says that, like people, might say, oh, life is hard. Like, is that my truth? Is that what I believe? And then if I believe that, or if I adopt that is my truth, that's actually what's creating my reality, what's casting spells. So with this Mercury actually being in a new phase with Jupiter, which say that Mercury is seeking a new ways for us to see reality, to perceive reality, which will be more in alignment with who we are, like what we value, how we feel about ourselves, what is our, relationship with ourselves. But at the same time, this process of identifying also needs to be kind of looked at, reevaluated, because Mercury is in a closing phase to this new moon. And this new moon, as we established, is in an Aquarian decan. So again, is in order to start thinking in a new way, we actually have to start thinking about what we're thinking about, the way I'm thinking. Is it actually beneficial to me? Is it actually supporting me in this process of breaking myself free from these outdated patterns? And like I said, once again, I want to remind everyone that Mercury was the one that made a trine to Pluto just before, after Pluto moved into Capricorn, but just before Mercury itself moved into its rulership of Gemini. So once again, this is telling us that the Mercurian function, the Mercurian archetype, it's very supportive in our evolution, which I'm trying to listen to this myself because I'm Taurus sun, so I can be very rigid and stuck in my ways. And like me talking all this stuff, like it's all nice to talk about it, like but let's walk my talk here. And I struggle sometimes, I struggle thinking like, oh yeah, I'm so open-minded and, I'm flexible and adaptable. But when I have my schedule and the power cut happens and I cannot do my reading during my schedule, like my client is waiting, I have no power, no internet. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I start freaking out. And this is exactly what the universe is trying to teach us. There is more and more situations and circumstances where we feel like oh, I didn't see that coming, or, oh, I'm a victim. There is nothing I can do about this. Like, let me be angry or something, right? Whereas what this universe is actually trying to teach us all of us through these happenings in the world and, you know, in our everyday reality, whether it's power cut for you, like for me, or something else happening, is this, that don't be too attached to your rigid schedule and, you know, to your routines and to the things that in the past you thought that were like steady, Taurus, always there. Now Uranus is in Taurus, so hey, don't take anything for granted, because you don't know how much longer is it there for. And this is pretty much what is necessary for this, you know, moving into Aquarius, Pluto moving into Aquarius. Okay, we all want to be free, but like, well, how are we gonna make it happen? Because we are still also depending on the system, myself included. I am no exception. That, oh, if somebody decides to take the power off, take the internet off, what am I going to do, right? So this is just the little nudges from the universe to invite us to actually think like, oh, okay, you know, to be free and independent and sovereign and live my way, you know, the way I choose for myself. It actually, you know, it requires some adjustments, you know, me kind of like thinking out of the box, going like a little bit out of my comfort zone, right? So this is exactly what this, you know, this new moon, in my interpretation, I'm not saying that, you know, I know what I'm talking about here. This is just the energy I'm tapping into. I feel that this is what this new moon is inviting us, you know, to consider, because Gemini, you know, like, let's ask questions, let's be curious, let's look at things from a different perspective. And let's see if I got any more notes written here. Like, yeah, with my, you know, with my voice, I thought like, let's not take chances and let's write notes this time around. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that actually, because we know that the Saturn plays such an important role, because it's again the ruler of, you know, Pluto, is actually going to have sextile with the Jupiter. And there will be also sextile between Mercury and Mars. This is not active just yet. I mean, the sextile between Jupiter and Saturn is kind of active already, even though it's exact on Monday. But yeah, there is sextile between these two going on. So of course now Jupiter like helping us to maybe see reality from a different point of view, because, you know, is this still me? Is this in alignment with my values? Is this still what I believe? And then this Saturn is like, okay, well, Jupiter, what did you find out? And what do you want me to dissolve? What is no longer your truth, you know? What no longer gives you meaning? So to wrap this up, guys, because I've been going on forever, and I know people are busy and have other things to do. So what I really want to say, which is thing that came up to me in my reading today, actually, with my client, and I get a lot of like a red thread in my readings. I can see so many repeating patterns. And of course, everybody is on their own unique journey, and, you know, everybody's got their own story, unique story, but I see a pattern going on here. And actually, the thing that I want to mention, which came up for me today, is that especially with regards to this confusion that people might be feeling right now, like there is this tension, you know, this need for change, this desire to change, but at the same time we feel paralyzed because, you know, there is this like, okay, but how am I going to do it? You know, it's all nicely said, there is this new age of Aquarius coming, but what it looks like to me, you know, like how am I supposed to make it happen for myself? So this is kind of like, you know, when there is a lot of frustration in the world, like a lot of these, you know, squares, a lot of tension, frustration, sense of crisis. And at the same time, you know, there are so many things that are outside of our control, like with all these weather pattern changes and, you know, all these things that's going on in the world, which I don't need to name here. But, you know, it makes us feel insecure. You know, there is all these new phases going on. New phases are all about Aries archetype. Like we don't know because we're going into something we never experienced before, and we don't have any previous experience, you know, any previous guidance other than our own, which is the resolution, of course, to trust yourself, to know yourself, to believe in yourself, to believe you deserve, that you're worthy. But the thing I actually wanted to mention, and without going in the circles, is that I really feel a lot of people collectively and individually feel like they lost signal. You know, like we feel like, you know, I was going in one direction, you know, like if you imagine you driving, you have a GPS, right? And you're going into a certain destination, which you feel is the right one. And then, you know, you maybe make a wrong turn, and then kind of the universe wants to like kind of give you a nudge, like, okay, let me recalculate the journey for you to help you to get where you want to go. But then there is a loss of signal, you know, suddenly, you know, there is no signal and like no GPS. And I'm like, where am I going? You know, I kind of lost it. I don't know where I am. And I feel that collectively and individually, this is where we at right now, you know, where is this like, oh yeah, I felt that, you know, I need to reroute. There was these new nudges, you know, the GPS was recalculated. I feel there is this new road, new direction, new route, which I need to follow. I need to go in this different way, because maybe I turn in a wrong way, you know, I'm stuck in my life where I feel unhappy. I feel that there is no purpose to what I'm doing, you know, I feel stuck, I feel unhappy, I feel that there is no meaning, you know, I feel lost and confused. And then suddenly there was this like a new route, you know, and okay, let me try this new route, you know, like let's see where it goes, you know, it can't be worse. And then there is no signal. So I'm like, okay, well, I was ready for this new thing, but now I don't know what I'm doing because there is no signal, right? And that's what I feel is happening right now because of this square with Neptune. You know, the Neptune is like, okay, let me take the signal off, you know, like this confusion. But at the same time, you know, the Neptune is sextile in Pluto. So this is saying like, well, you know, if there is no one out there to rely on, well, we just have to trust ourselves, don't we? Because this, you know, Pluto going through Capricorn is saying, well, you know, this structure, maybe this internet, maybe this signal, like who knows how long it's gonna be there for, like who knows anything, right? And then this Neptune is kind of saying like, well, you know, you kind of have to start trusting your intuition, right? So anyway, so this is what I feel, you know, this is what I feel, and this is the experience that I'm getting through the interaction with my clients, that we all, well, majority, I mean, I can't talk for everyone, I'm talking for the people that I have the opportunity to interact with. We are on a precipice of change, right? And we know that the old way doesn't work. You know, this old road doesn't go anywhere. It's a you know, the end of the road. It's the blind spot. What is this? You know, the road that has no continuation. I can't think of the word right now. But anyway, so now we're rerouting. You know, we're going in a new direction. But at the same time, we kind of like feeling a little bit lost. You know, like, man, I really don't know. You know, I really don't know, and I'm confused. And I'm kind of worried and insecure and afraid because I know that this old is not working. It's a dead end. Yeah, that's the road, dead end. So dead end in my life. But, you know, this Aries energy, I don't know. Like there is no previous experience. All I know that I have a desire, you know, instinctual desire for change, to live a life of deeper meaning and purpose. And I don't know how the hell I'm going to get there, but, you know, I'm going to try. And the guidance, the thing that's gonna help you to get there is yourself. We really need to, this year especially, we need to focus on ourselves, not in this selfish way, like I don't care about anyone else and this whole world is about me, but in a sense it is, you know, your life is about you because you are the creator of it. So what is this astrology and all the planets and everyone involved trying to help us to do is to get to know ourselves better and take care of what we need, and or find a way how we're gonna take care of that, and that will guide us towards you know, a life of deeper meaning and purpose. Because once we know what it is that we want and we can inquire about how we're gonna go around getting that, then we might feel inspired again. You know, we might find the GPS signal because there will be suddenly new inspiration. We won't feel lost and confused, but suddenly I'll be like, okay, you know, now this matters to me. This is really in alignment with my values. You know, I know that this makes me feel safe and secure, you know, if I'm going to provide this for myself. And now, okay, God, universe, whatever out there, give me the guidance, please. I'm ready to move into this new direction. Please bring me new GPS signal. And yeah, and that's what I feel is happening. And, you know, we are just about to start new season. We are just about to enter the Cancer season next week, but I'll probably make a video about that. And this is a new chapter for us, new opportunity. It halves the year, and it's an opportunity to start anew, right? So anyway, guys, I'll leave it at that. I hope that this video made sense. I hope that it was helpful, because trust me, if you think you're confused and you don't know what the hell is happening and you don't know how the hell to get out of it, you're not alone. Trust me, you're not alone. I can tell you that. So anyway, much love. Please do comment. Let me know how it's showing up for you. And yeah, now my voice is almost back. I'll be back soon. Much love to everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.